for all the people out there with a dream that just want to be seen. Yeah, my dream's bigger than the average.
Welcome to another episode of the Be Seen podcast. This is episode 12, and we have a very important guest today. This lady is one of the most talented people I know. She wrote the greatest poem I've ever read. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we have the Shahnaz. This is Shahnaz Ahmed from the US. She's a poet. She's been on the board of a theatre company. She's also a playwright and a novelist. Shahnaz, please share with us your fantastic journey, where it all started and where it's gone to.
Oh my gosh. You know, when you talk about journey, right? The word journey, it's like people think, oh, journey, it's like point A to point B. It's this train trip. You get on the track A to B. But it's really not a train trip. It's really a roller coaster that's going twisting and turning. And, and at some point you're upside down and you hope and pray the seatbelt doesn't fail. And that's journey, right? But in my life, there's been two journeys. We're talking like two roller coaster tracks that are like headed in collision, kind of, sort of. One is my professional journey of the dentistry, which we're not going to talk about. We'll talk about the writing journey. And when it coincides with that, we'll kind of see where the tracks collide. So I think my writing journey really started at 13. So embarrassing. I started writing my first novel at 13. Okay, blank book, and I just started handwriting it. I hope no one ever finds that first page because it was probably cringeworthy. And at that time, I was in Dubai, and it was like the coolest thing to write. Like, my friends could write really well, and there was this one friend who wrote the sentence like, the bus coughed up the street. And I'm like, I want my buses to cough up the street. Okay. So I was like, okay. So then I started like really getting into like, oh, I really want to write. And somewhere along the line, I was writing poems, which I didn't even know I was writing poems, but I'd show my friends and they're like, oh, cool, whatever. Well, the funny thing is, when I left Dubai and I came to America, my friend's like, hey, why don't you write me a poem just so I can remember you by? So I said, okay, fine. So wrote something up, and she was like, I asked her what she wanted. She's like, well, a love romance poem. And I'm like, oh my God, talk about teenage angst and embarrassment. And like I said, I hope nobody ever finds any of this. Okay. That's the hope. It's like, I hope it's very, I myself don't ever want to read it. But okay, moving forward, came to America, and that's when you go into journey 2. I have to be a doctor. That's it. There was no other option to even allow myself to think that I could be something else. It's like, okay, fine. So I kept going that way. I think somewhere I was always writing poems. I don't know how or why, but when I look back, like randomly, I'll find poems written from God knows when. I'm like, what? Was I always writing this? Without even knowing it, I was always doing this. So here I am. So I'm in dental school, right? And the first 2 years, forget it. It's like rough. You can't think of anything but school. The third year, you're up in clinic. You have more time. You can come home. You have time. And that's when I started thinking, you know what? I'm gonna work on writing. So I started writing. And here's the story. I had one of my faculty members, Dr. Henry Lancaster, lovely guy, passed away, cystic fibrosis, super nice guy. I gave him my work, whatever I'd written. I don't remember what I gave him. And I said, hey, Dr. Lancaster, will you look at this? I kind of wrote this. I don't even know why I did it, but I did. And I don't know when, but I remember it was the 3rd floor. So Dr. Lancaster is like, I was walking a clinic and I hear this, Shahnaz. I turn around and it's Dr. Lancaster. And he goes, hey. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to clinic. And it's like, one of those things, like, I'm like, what's going on? Think about this. I'm in dental school. Dr. Lancaster is like, Shahnaz, what does that mean? I'm in trouble. Something happened. Something with a patient. Like my brain's going, what, when, where, hey, Dr. Lancaster, what's going on? He's like, yeah, well, about the stuff you gave me to read, you're writing. So now my brain's freaking out. Oh, fudge, this is about the writing. Oh my God, now it's like what was worried about patience or something. Now it's totally like, oh my God, he's going to hate it. He's going to say it sucks, and I'm like, okay, you brace yourself and you're like, okay, about the writing. And he said, I'm just going to ask you this question. I said, okay, what are you doing here? Dr. Lancaster? Like I'm thinking, I'm very literal. So I'm like, Dr. Lancaster, I have clinic in like 5 minutes. I'm setting up for a patient. He goes, no, not today, not like here. Dental school. Oh, dental school. I'm here to be a dentist. Why else would anyone be in dental school? And then he said something I'll never forget in my entire life. If I could write as well as you, I wouldn't be here.
Wow.
That was it. I was just like, I don't know how to respond to that. I'm like, well, thank you, Dr. Lancaster. I'll see you later. And that's it. You just kind of forget it, but don't forget it. Obviously, I'm talking about this 25 years later. I was like, okay, I'm going to work on this one book, because what happened is there was a scene in my head. It wasn't a scene. It was just, I was walking around and all I could hear was the screaming. This kid was screaming, help me, help me. And I'm like, where are you? I don't see you. And I'm like, help me. And I'm like, who are you? Where are you? I don't understand. And all I'm doing, it's like this, like Superman can hear things. And, it's kind of like that, but except it's like, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going crazy. What the heck's going on? And I started recognizing this thing that was in my head was really a story of this kid who was abused. And I just kind of ignored it, but it just kept, the voice was louder and louder and louder until one day I couldn't take it anymore. Like I literally couldn't function. I couldn't see patients. Like I was seeing patients with the scream at the back of my head. I just couldn't function. Came home, turned on the computer, 7,000 words later, I was healed. Like I just sat for an hour, just type. One chapter, 7,000 words later, I was fine. It was like an exorcism, if you want to call it that. It's crazy. So then I had that, fine, whatever. And I started doing research for the novel, which was really interesting because I was in Indiana at that time and I called Child Protection Services, right? Because you got to figure this out. Okay, you got an abused child. What are the legal rights? All the stuff. So I called Child Protection Services and I introduced myself as Dr. Ahmed. Hey, I'm a pediatric dentist, but I'm writing a book. I'm just here I just have some questions. Well, I kept calling. I got transfer. Finally, I'm talking to the lawyer, the main lawyer for Child Protection Services. An hour-long conversation, and he's answering all my questions. But towards the end, he says, tell me again what's going on. And I'm like, Dr. Ahmed, I'm a pediatric dentist. He goes, yes. Okay, I got that. And you're asking these questions because I'm writing a book. It's a novel and blah, blah, blah. And he says, Dr. Ahmed, I just want to let you know something. Okay. I said, sure. He says, legally in the state of Indiana, I just want to let you know, legally, you are under obligation to report abuse. You do know that, right? As a practicing clinician, you do know you are under obligation to report abuse. And I'm like, I promise you, this is just a story. I swear to you, I am not under, I mean, like literally like, and it was really weird because he's like, no, I get it, but your questions are very specific. You talk about like what happened is very, very specific. So I'm just kind of, and I'm like, nope, this is what it is. So that happened. And then I moved back home, St. Louis. I've got this book. I want to finish it. I have, this is like actually my second job, decent job. I'm good. Uh, and I thought, okay, well, I'll even hire a writing coach. Maybe she was a nonfiction person, but it's fine. She was working with me, like, okay, let's work on chapter at a time, breaking it down, all the stuff. Things were good until things weren't good at work. And just things were not good at work. It was just the stress constantly. And finally, work didn't work out. And then I had to start my practice. And when your life crashes, I woke up one morning and all my characters just died. Like normally when I wake up, they're always there. They're in the kitchen, they're doing something, they're walking around, they're doing something. Wake up one morning and the television is off. And you're like, I can't plug it in. I can't do anything. It's off. It's gone. Like everything's gone. Like I have zero creativity in me at that point. The funny thing is, I was still writing poems, which I never realized. Like I said, now moving forward, like now when I look back, I was always writing those poems somewhere scattered through all my stresses because that's how I healed myself. Like if I was ever super crazy, I was always writing, but I didn't realize I was doing that. So moving on, I think I kind of stopped writing. I got a divorce. Stress, like stress was really high. Just opened my practice, got a divorce. It's I can't even tell you everything that was involved in that. Okay. And so it's kind of at that point, it becomes food, shelter, and clothing. Like literally, that's kind of what's in my brain. Like forget creativity. It's about, okay, here's the practice. I got to do this for this. You're talking this roller coaster crashing. The writing's gone. Like I said, I was always writing poems, which I didn't realize. But anyway, moving forward, I think it was, I don't know how many years really, um, dating all kinds of wrong men, blah, blah, blah. And one day I wake up and I say to myself, enough is enough. I'm going to do what Shahnaz wants. And the funny thing is, at that point, I was like, what does Shahnaz want? And the only answer that came to me at that point wasn't, I want to be an author, which should have been the right answer, but that wasn't the answer. So Shahnaz wants to be on stage. Shahnaz wants to act again. I used to be on stage before, so I want to act again. Fine. So I go to this audition. I find out an audition. I go to this audition, and I'm running late from clinic. I got to get ready, go there. These two gentlemen there, one of whom is Brad, who is now my husband. But the thing is, since I was late, everyone's, you have to take your time to audition, right? It's my turn is at the end. So I'm just hanging there. And you know me, I can't just hang there and be quiet. So I go up to Brad and Jim Meady, who passed away. But anyway, real nice guy. So I'm going up to these two men and I'm like, so what is it you guys do? Like, I mean, what is this theater company? Just tell me, like, so of course Brad's like, well, I'm the president of First Run Theater, blah, blah, blah. And then he says, we put on new plays. I'm like, what do you mean by new plays? I'm like trying to understand. He goes, well, if someone wrote a new play, we put in like brand new plays. So if I wrote a play, you would put it up. He goes, yes and no, not exactly, but yes. If you wrote a play, it goes through the committee. I said, yeah, I get that committee, blah, blah, blah. But if I wrote a play, I could submit. Do you write? It's like, think about this. I haven't been writing the book. Everything's gone for like years. Oh, if you backtrack, I was taking a writing course. Like I took a course in writing, like short story writing, and I'd written a short story like way back when, but nothing, right? For years. Do you write? Ooh, how do you answer that question? Do you write? Maybe. Like, it's like it's like maybe. And he goes, maybe. I said, well, I used to write. I was working, here's the story of lament. I was working, had a short story, I had a novel, blah, blah, blah. But so he goes, wow, so you could just convert one of those, write it as a play and I can, but it's the format's different. And I'm like, okay, well, thank you. Do my audition, come back, forget about it. 2 months later, he finds me on Facebook and he contacts me and he says, do you remember, like you were talking about writing? So this is like second time. The first time around, after so many years, I'm like, this is divine intervention. This is God telling you need to get back to writing. This is a second call. This is the second call. The man is like asking you, are you writing? I'm like, yeah, I should. So right now I'm processing this thing between clinic, my practice, and writing. Like, what do I do? And he wants me to write a play. I have no idea what this is all about. So then he's like messaging me. I don't remember how often. And I got freaking frustrated with this guy. So I got to get rid of this guy. I'm like, I just got to get rid of him. This is it. I can't handle this. Okay. So I had an ironclad way of getting rid of Brad. And what I was going to do is I was just going to tell him, I was going to send my short story to him. And 100% he was going to read it. He was going to say, this sucks. You're done. Goodbye. And now that would be the end of that. I'd be fine. So that's what I offered him. I said, hey, you know what? Since you keep asking me about this writing, I'll tell you what, I'll make a deal with you. I'll send you my short story. If you think it's worth converting into a play, I'll do it. If not, this is where this conversation ends, kind of thing. Forever hold your peace kind of thing. So I send it to him, and it's less than 24 hours later, he sends me these notes, long, like all the stuff about really like the story, blah, blah, blah. But if you're going to write it as a play, you have to think about a play structure. It's one set. Again, this will take place in 3 countries. You can't just change sets and all this. So either figure out a way to make this whole story happen in one country with one set and all the stuff. And I'm like, okay. And then he's like, would you like to meet? I'm happy to bring you the structure, the format of how to write a play. Sure, I don't know this man. He's probably an axe murderer, but okay, sure. So I'm meeting him at this place at Starbucks, and the funniest thing is, normally I'm always running late to work. I'm always like 5 minutes late because I know my assistant's set up, and by the time I come in, I'm ready to go. But before I left work, I told my assistants, I said, here's the thing, tomorrow, if I am more than 5 minutes late, the usual 5 minutes, don't call me to figure out where I am. Call the police, okay? Just call 911 right away and give them his name, and this is his Facebook account. That's all I know. And this is where I'm meeting this person. So if I'm not here in time at clinic tomorrow, this is what happened to me. And then I went and met Brad. Well, obviously I'm still alive. And I ended up marrying the guy, so okay, he must have turned out okay, right? So we're there, and he shows me this, how to write the play. I wrote it. We have this writers group here for plays, and we had it read. And people were like, well, fix it this way, fix it. And I'm like, okay, fixing it. It got to the point where what was like a short story became this full-length play. And I knew what I wanted to do, but I was really frustrated with the edits. I was super frustrated with trying to fix all this. And so I just said, I'm going to stop. I'm not going to fix it. I was trying to write other plays, just randomly, like I randomly wake up. Like this happened once. I woke up at 6 a.m., which I never wake up that early. Wake up, get on my computer, clack, 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 clack. So Brad wakes up like later. He goes, what just happened? You just jumped out of bed. I'm like, hey, Brad, listen to this. 10-minute play. Okay, opening scene. And I'm reading him this play, and he goes, when did you write this? I said, just now. And he goes, you wrote the whole thing in like the last half hour. I'm like, yep. So listen, but forget about that. Just listen to the play. That's how like I'll get charged. I was writing plays. That was it. And then at some point again, I stopped writing plays. I said, okay, whatever. And then I don't remember the progression, but pandemic hits. And I remember this. So pandemic, and I'm just there, and Brad's going downstairs. He's always going downstairs to do something. And I'm like, I don't know why, but I just said, "Hey, Brad, where are you going?" He goes, "I'm going downstairs." I'm like, "Yeah, but why?" And he goes, "You know my play? I'm going to write it as a novel." Oh, like it's just that. I don't know what it was about how he said it. He said, "You know my play? I'm going to write it as a novel." I said, "Okay, that's it. I'm going to write my play as a novel." That was that was the beginning. And then I started with September 2020, beginning September 1st, 2020. I started writing the first draft of my novel. And October 31st, the first draft was done. The full novel was done. And then later on, I wrote a second, like I edited the whole thing. So you have a second draft, a third draft. Then I sent it to a professional editor who sent me all these notes. And I just finished that. All like just all of the revamps, whatever I wanted to revamp, I got that. And now I'm working on a fifth edit because someone else read stuff and was like, "Hey, what about this? It's getting easier." So I have that. So that's going on. So it's somewhere from the 13-year-old girl who started writing a novel somewhere in Dubai. Here I am, a 50-year-old woman with potentially a full novel. I'm not, it is a novel, it just has to be finished. I mean, it is finished, but it has to be, you know what I mean? It has to be fully edited and agented and all of that. Like, I look at this and I'm going, how did I get here? But
Yes.
it's crazy. And meanwhile, in the last couple of years, my cousin, who's my accountability partner, who's been very, very, very instrumental in following up with me daily on my writing. That September 1st to October 31st, she called me every day. "How many words did you write today? Did you finish writing today?" It was daily. And if ever there was a time I said, "Hey, I didn't write today," she'd be like, "Well, then hang up the freaking phone and go write. Don't talk to me. I'm not talking to you till you finish." So we were like, that was like with push, I finished that. And she also pushed me into Twitter. And then on Twitter, here I am and doing NFTs and I'm writing poems. It's a whole different ball game. And now I realize all those poems I've been writing without even knowing about it. Like it's just this thing that it's an invisible act that I never even knew has become visible. Like it's just become visible. And now I'm kind of like, I'm a poet. Like now, if someone asks me, I will just say, I am a poet. It's not invisible anymore. I'll own up to it. I'm a poet. I'm a novelist. This is who I am. And that's the journey. It's crazy, but that's the God honest truth.
That's what a journey. What a journey. I don't think I love what you said at the beginning. Things aren't A to Z. They're not just in a straight line. It's not just when we get there. It's this crazy roller coaster that can go anywhere at any given moment. And how we start something, pause something. In essence, you start writing at 13. Don't really pick it up again until your late 20s. Go and show your this academic gentleman who's within dentist school who compliments you so highly, and then you're just running through with it, but life gets in the way, you become divorced, you stop writing, you get on with your life and move forward again, go to get back into acting, and then get challenged to, well, do you write? And then it goes from there.
Crazy.
It's incredible.
It's crazy. Like
Life is crazy. Life is crazy.
Right.
You know, in terms of, you said that your book's not quite finished, quite edited. You're going through the editing process. What have you learned, or how has your writing improved, or techniques that you've learned since, say, writing page 1 in 2020, September 2020, to right now? How much have you grown?
A lot, a lot. Um, the biggest thing obviously is show don't tell, right? I'm taking scenes and I'm kind of like, there's this one scene I was reading the other day and I was smiling and I was laughing and I didn't know why. And then it hit me that I had actively focused on the showing. And it was just all this, it was just great because one of my characters is like literally like she's frustrated, she's crazy. But anyway, she's frustrated and she's stuck in traffic and she's late for her first day of work. And so she's just like slamming her hand against the steering wheel. And I'm watching her do this because I made these comments as showing rather than saying she's frustrated. I just like she slammed her hand into the steering wheel. And I'm like, that's not going to make the traffic go, right? And like, and this is stuff, so I've grown that way. And also there's the other thing is I forget what the word is. You probably would know. It's when a character has what is that word when it's like a character has like I guess autonomy, like a character. It's not things happening to the character. The character's actually doing things when something's happening. Like the character is making the story move, kind of thing. Well, what is that called? I forget. There's a word for it, but anyway. So I've learned that I can't just say, okay, well, my character's in an earthquake. Well, things happen, she's dying, whatever. But that's not interesting. You've got to have the character get up and fight and do something. So that's something I've also learned. Those are the two big things. Show, don't tell, and really have your character just go at it. And of course, just put your characters to the ringer, just it's hard, but you gotta do it.
Absolutely, 100%. In terms of your poetry, he said how it was invisible, but now it's visible. It's out there. For the audience, explain what NFTs are and how these are actually helping poets now get their content out.
Basically, you can take a poem, like a print of a poem, and get a background of it. And so it's a JPEG, right? But you upload this JPEG into this NFT format, and it's called Web3, but you upload it and then people can buy the poem, this format with cryptocurrency. And now certain, like certain marketplaces, as they call like a marketplace of where you buy these things, they even allow you to literally put in your credit card and convert your US dollars or whatever it is to crypto so you can buy this token. And so it's really cool because now it's like I've sold a few poems that way, and it's just people know me as a poet. And that's kind of where, what was invisible is now people are selling these poems. In the past, I think, or even now, you'd have to write a whole bunch of poems. I guess you'd have to apply to agents and things like that and come up with a poetry book. And who wants a poetry book really? Because people are more interested in novels. But as a poet, if you convert your work into an NFT, and then you meet all these people on Twitter and you can sell your work, and it's just kind of nice. It's good.
Nice. So this is now a new channel for writers or a medium which allows you to monetize your content. There's advantages to it. You can actually timestamp your content using blockchain. But there is the other side to it as well. Some people don't get sales, or it could take time. So it isn't a given that you put it out there and someone buys it instantly. You do have to create, you need to make people aware. Unless they
You just have to be charming is what you need to be. So, if you're charming, then people will buy it because they like you. If you're a total jerk, then no one's gonna like you. And even if your poem is phenomenal, they're not gonna buy from you. It's people. Here's the thing with poetry or even novel or whatever you're doing your work, people buy the person first. If they buy you as a person, then they'll buy your work.
That's if they get to know you, though. Because, for instance, when you first read some literature, you read the words. If you buy into the words, you buy into the person, because then you look at who wrote those words. Then you follow the person. So it can depends. I
Fine.
mean,
Chicken or the egg? Chicken or the egg?
yeah. How would you write a poem, Shanaz? How do you approach your poetry? What's your style?
I don't have one really. I just when okay, so here's the thing. When a thought comes to me or a concept comes to me, and I just write about the concept, and then the poem just goes from there. For example, let's just assume I see a guy on the roof. Let's say my neighbor's fixing his roof, right? So it would start with the guy on the roof is fixing, and then my brain would change to not the roof, is fixing his life, is fixing his marriage, is fixing his relationships. And he's one step away from falling off the, like, my brain just goes in that direction of a story. I I think that's what my poetry is. It starts with something and I storify it. And storify, is that a word? Anyway, yeah, so I make it into a story, and then it depends on where that poem ends. Is the guy still on the roof, or did he fall, or what happens? I don't know. But I'll have to, not, my brain just takes the story, and as I'm writing, there are times I surprise myself. I'm like, oh, really? Wow, that's pretty cool. I'm like, I have no idea. So when you ask me, how do you write a poem? I don't know. I don't know what's going to come out. It's just, you start me off with a prompt and I just go.
That's brilliant, and that's so true. We look at things and we can see the most mundane acts, and we're thinking, where could that lead? Could that be for something different, like you said, not fixing the roof, fixing his marriage, fixing his life? I love that. That's really good. That's really good. And in terms of techniques that you use in your poetry, what techniques do you tend to use? Do you have any? Is there any go-tos that someone would look at your work and go, "That's a Shahnaz Ahmed poem"?
If I really look at my poems, there's a lot of questions in them. There's just I go back, and it's a constant, sometimes it's a string of questions. And I've come to recognize that poetry is how I process life, right? Like, what's happening with the guy on the roof? Is his marriage failing? I might have written it as, is his marriage failing? You know, is he going to fall off? But I may write those as questions, and I tend to, that would be my style, is a lot of questions. The other thing about my poetry is I tend to write in the moment. I take a scene, that moment, and that's it. The guy on the roof, and that's it. I'm not going to write about the guy on the roof 50 years from now. It's going to be the guy on the roof on a Monday morning at noon. That's the story. And that's the poem. So I kind of tend to keep to certain scenes.
That's fantastic. I love that. You have to get it out of your system. That's brilliant. That's a true writer. In terms of your acting, you're very, you have the ability to be creative in different ways. Do you still act?
Um, it's a matter of like auditioning and things like that, right? I haven't gone for an audition in a while. I think I went for an audition a few months ago. I didn't get the part. And right now, it's kind of a tricky age to get a part because I don't want to color my hair, because if I colored my hair, I'd look 20s. I just don't want to. And so it's
Would
like, what age and what part am I going to play? And do I still act? If there's a part, sure. Like, I think a couple of years ago or something, there was a part in, if they ever have a filler role in the theater company, they're like, Schnaz, I really need this thing. And I'm like, sure, I'll do it. So, but I mean, I'd like to, but it's also a matter of time. I'm pretty busy these days, quite busy. So acting means a lot of rehearsals, like 3 days a week, a lot of line memorizations. That's going to take time. So it's just, I don't have that time right now, but I would love to.
creatively, how would you separate writing from acting? How are they different for you?
I don't even think of, I've never even considered that they both are creative. I don't know. I just, it's a crazy question. How do I separate writing from acting? I think writing is more creative because you're creating something.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like something that doesn't exist. You're creating a whole new story and something like that. Acting is revealing what's already there. You already have a story, and it's your job to use your brain to somehow reveal it in how you're acting. So it's kind of a little different, I think. I don't know.
No, it's just interesting. They're two creative outlets that you thoroughly enjoy. There is some sort of energy that both give you. And I agree. I think writing's creating, and I feel that acting is kind of is taking the gauntlet and trying to bring to life someone else's words, someone else's vision, and being that, taking it from page into life. So I was just curious, really. You know, in terms of when you was at dentist school, did you ever write any academic papers?
Like research papers. Yeah, I did research in my second year of dental school. So yeah, probably, I don't think it was published, but I did write it. I don't remember what it was. It was something about spit, like literally like spit and bacteria. And I remember sitting there and trying to just spit in a tube and just like because we had to do research on it. But did I write a paper on it? I think we did. We published it at the IADR, International Academy of Dental Research. Yeah, in Florida. That was in 1997. Yeah, 19. Yeah, I know, last century, right? Yeah.
They're great
19,
times. Love the 90s. 97's a great year. That's the year that Titanic come out.
I hate that movie. But anyway,
Yeah.
we are just talking about it yesterday. Like, yeah, just yesterday, my husband, we were talking about the Titanic. I'm like, anyway, I was like, I hate that movie. And then my husband's like, well, it's about this great ship. And my cousin's like, no, it's about this romance. And I'm like, I don't care what it's about. It should have never been shot. It's the dumbest movie ever. But anyway, but
God, I love it.
I know I'm in the exception. I am the
You're in the
exception to
1%
that
of the
rule.
1% of the 1%. Everybody loves Titanic. It was like a
I
universe
hate that.
handshake.
It's the
Everybody
dumbest thing.
loved it.
I'm like, I don't care. I don't care if you all die.
It
You know,
doesn't do it for
all
you.
of you just go.
It doesn't do it for you. But
Nope,
that's
does not do it for me.
what's next for you, Shanaz? What's next? And just let everybody know as well, Shanaz is a big deal on Twitter. She's massive in the poetry Twitter community. Everybody loves Shanaz. They call her Shanazinator. She reads incredible poetry. There's a lot of spaces that Shanaz is present in, as well as running her own spaces, engaging with different poets, helping different poets, as well as inspiring other poets with her words and encourage them to write as well. So just giving some background on Shanaz. But Shanaz, please continue.
Ah, what's next? Next up is really literally finishing the edits on this book to get it like tight. What I'm doing right now is actually reading each chapter aloud because it really changes. Like when you're like just reading and you just read 3 hours, it's different. But when you read it out loud, you're like, oh, nope, let's fix this. So what's, you can tell it's really weird. I finding so many things. So next up is reading it out loud and editing. That would be like finishing it. And then after that, obviously, is trying to find an agent and the whole process of getting published. That is literally next up for me. Professionally, I'm going into speaking and things like that, and of course, all writing the poems, continuing with the NFT poetry, and trying to really see how I can take that to the next level. Because, like, I did. There's the poem that you really like, the word challenge. I did that one where I physically handwrote the poem, right? And it's a video of it,
Amazing.
of me handwriting the poem. So how do you take that to the next level? Like I've already taken it to that level. How do you up it? So constantly I'm sitting there going, how do you make it better? It can be made better. It has to be made better.
No, it can't. That poem can't be made better. It's perfect. I mean, Shahnaz, I don't want to put you on the spot, but would you read that poem? Would you read that poem for the audience? The word challenge. Would you? Let's go, Shahnaz. Let's hear the greatest poem I have ever heard. Sincerely, amazing.
All right.
Light up the room. Light up the room. Let's go.
Oh boy. Okay. All right. Let's do it. The word challenge. I don't want to write about how I'm feeling. Instead, I want to fill this page with words. Big ones, small ones, magnanimous words, sneaky words. Words to make me think, words to help me write, words that fill the void, and words to create a vacuum. I want words I don't understand. I want words that are random. How about we make up words and call it Zaladum? Use the tools of a wordsmith and sharpen some words to slice like a blade or to deliver forceful blows. Flatten some into sheets, warm and comforting. Sew them into garments to seek shelter from a storm. Fold the words and store them to be read at a later day. For the words may create a memory to bring joy into dark murk. Twist those words, squeeze them through, create new meanings, and make it all fit. Palindromes and such, synonyms and antonyms. Look up your dictionary, or better yet, the thesaurus. Words that have lived for centuries and those that died. Words that evolved from continents and divides. So, no, don't ask me how I'm feeling. Read me.
Every time, Shahnaz. Every time. Amazing. Amazing. I love that poem. That is the poem for writers. That is incredible. Exceptional work.
No, thank you. No, thank you. The funny thing about this poem, you asked me, how do your poems come about, right? This poem came about as an exercise. I literally was like, I'm going to write a poem about words. I'm just going to exercise. I'm just going to push myself to write a poem about words. That's it. And then the next thing I know, I have this poem. Like literally, like I don't even know how, why. It just came up like this.
Wow. Do you write every day, or do you write with inspiration?
I wish I could tell you I wrote every day, but I do both. No, well, no, I don't write every day. I do write with inspiration, but there are times I do write. Like when I get back, I'm going on a trip. When I get back, there are times like when I put it on my schedule and I'm like, I don't care what, I have to write, and that's something I want to do. I have done it. I don't do it all the time, but that's something I want to get back to. But inspiration, oh yeah, like it's easy. Yeah, inspiration. I mean, gosh, that's like your muse. I mean, it's like I said, I could write like 10 plays with inspiration, like oh, like just like that.
How hard is it to get into the industry? How hard has it been for you to break into the industry?
Here's the thing about that, and this is kind of the reality of life, right? I have a podcast about books and reading and things like that, and I was interviewing a lot of authors, and I ran into this author and editor like in Singapore. This wonderful woman, and we're just talking, and all this stuff. And I think she was on my podcast, I was on her podcast, just become friends. So she was like, she sent me an email one day and she's like, I'm doing this anthology. I would really, really, really love you to be a part of it. Do you have a short story? And I'm like, they throw rocks. I do. So there it goes. And then she edited it. She sent me the edited version. She's like, whichever version you want, I'll take it. But she had like really nice edits. She tightened it up really well. It's cute. And I said, you know what? Yeah, I like the edited version. Go for it. I'm good. So yeah, it's going to be coming out. It's funny because the way it's released is it's an Indian publishing company. So it gets released in Amazon India, then it goes to Kindle India, then it gets released to like the other countries or something. I don't understand it, but whatever. So like essentially like I can't purchase it here until it gets released past Amazon India, past Kindle India, and then it comes to the US. I don't know how it works, but yeah, I'm gonna be published soon. Crazy.
Wow.
Crazy. That 13-year-old girl who is writing her first novel is gonna be published soon with a short story in an anthology. Yeah.
Nothing short of amazing. As we spoke previously, I believe your work ethic, I've never seen anything like it. It's very rare. It's very rare. Your work ethic is incredible. You write consistently, reliably, and you don't let go, and you don't stop until you've achieved what you're looking to achieve. 3 basic ingredients to going out there and doing it, as well as having talent. You know, it's not easy, but at times you make it look easy. And I think your words are so potent and effective and really resonate and kind of follow you. You know, after you've heard them, you continue to think about them. I love the way you write. And I think as soon as your novel becomes published, I don't think there's going to be any stopping you. As I said, I really think it's going to be you to the next level. So
Oh, thanks. Wow. Thank you.
It's the truth. It's the truth.
It's good. No, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. I'm really excited because it's not just so it's really weird, you know. It's here's the story, okay? People say that, oh my gosh, your first novel is your first novel, and you know, people expect so much from your second or your third novel. You have to like up it, and people say that a lot of times when you get your first novel in, a lot of authors are not able to hold up, and their second novel and third gets worse or whatever. I don't know. That's one of the theories. The funny thing is, my second novel and third novel are going to be so much better. Even the storyline, like when I was thinking of the story, like just when it hit me, I'm like, no. And then I was like, I came home and I'm like, no way. Oh my God. How? And you know, I'm like, this thing is like, I'm like, how did this happen? And I'm like, and I can't wait to write those stories, but I have to, I'm like, Shahnaz, focus, focus, focus. Been telling myself that because it's so essential that I got to get this novel done. But I've got a second novel in my mind. It's already there. Like, so the game plan is this, Jonathan. You ask me what's next is finish the edits. And once it's done, the very next day, it's going to be work on getting agented and start the next novel. There's going to be no break. There is going to be no, oh, let's celebrate, let's party for a week. No, immediately work on getting an agent and get that journey started on that second novel. Remember how the first novel, September 1st, October 31st, I'm going to do that same strategy, write 2,000 words a day. Maybe if I can up it to 3,000 or 4,000 words a day, just get it done and get that second novel done. And after that second novel, I'll still be working on trying to get this one published, right? And after the second one's done, you put it in the drawer for 6 weeks because that's what you're supposed to do, apparently, by Stephen King on writing. That's what he says. Put it in the drawer and then open a new Word document and start the third one. So at some point in my life, I can see it. It's going to be probably, it might even be 2023, really realistically, maybe end of 2023 or beginning 2024. I'm going to be writing on my third novel while my second is incubating, while my first novel, I'm dealing with agents or trying to get that going. And when I find an agent and when I get sold, at some point I'm going to be like incubating. Okay, well, pull out book 2. I'm working on book 2 and re-editing book 1, because when you go with the publisher and all that, they'll want edits. So at some point I'm going to be doing 3 books at one time. I can just see myself doing that. But anyway, that's what's coming up for me. It's going to be fun. It's going to be so much fun.
Sounds really exciting. You're really organized, you're prepared, and you're ready. And I love that. Shahnaz Ahmed, thank you ever so much for gracing us with your journey. And not only that, but taking the time to dissect, what you've done and why you do it and how you write. And for any pieces of information and tips that can be passed on to those that are aspiring to also follow in your footsteps, and those that are on the path to being published or have achieved already, how to get there. And I really appreciate your time, and I appreciate everything that you shared there. It was excellent. Is there any final word that you have?
I do, actually. For
Go.
anybody, I do. The word is just start. That's it. Just start. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be just freaking start. And do it every day, little at a time. That's it. If you write 1 sentence a day, just start. That's my final word. That's it. I don't have anything else. Jonathan, thank you ever so much for having me on your podcast. I'm just totally honored and humbled. So thank you.
Thank you. No, it's a pleasure to speak with you, and always. For anyone that wants to connect with Shahnaz, I'll be placing all the details within the description. You can join one of her spaces on Twitter. You can get to know Shahnaz and follow her work as well, and see her NFTs that will also be there in the description. But to the audience, another fantastic episode on the Beast podcast. So stay great, everybody, and be seen. Thank you.